All right. Good evening and welcome to this Tri-City Council Committee of the Whole work session meeting. Tonight we're going to be talking about the comprehensive plan. All members are in attendance except for Mr. Siebert. So, Mr. Titterington.
Well, I will turn Well, I can turn over to Frank, but I was going to turn over to Austin first, but you go right ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
We're all informal here, so.
Great. Well, it's wonderful to be here this evening to talk to you about the upcoming comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance update efforts. We're here starting the process in earnest. We've been working on it for a couple of months with staff, going through some data collection efforts and some other things I'll go in. But we're here now. We want to start talking to the community, getting in front of everybody, and really starting to dig into not only just what the data tells us, but what the community wants and thinks. And I'm sorry.
Name and...
Oh, I had a part in the slide deck a little later. I was going to do that, but I'll tell you what.
We usually do that.
I'll leave part of that slide as a reveal, but I'll do that first. My name is Matthew O'Rourke. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Group Leader with American Structure Point. Structure Point is a multidisciplinary engineering and planning firm. I run our Planning and Economic Development Group. I've been doing this for 5 years now in the private sector, but also spent 15 years in the public sector. Started working on reviewing fence and deck and shed permits, and then all the way through TIF deals, everything else, and then came over to the private sector a little bit ago, and I'll turn over to Ashley.
And my name is Ashley Noonan. I'm Senior Planner with American Structure Point.
My name is David Baird. I'm a Senior Project Manager with American Structure Point. I specialize in rewriting zoning ordinances and land development ordinances for cities and local government. So look forward to working with you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. With that, quick agenda for this evening, introductions, just kind of finish that one up a little bit. Project introduction, just going to go overview what this process is all about, why we're here, what we're going to have at the end of the process. I have a little gaming exercise I like to call fast facts, things that we want to get your reactions to. That was the more interactive piece, and then given the time, I know we got started a little later than anticipated. We like to put groups like this to work to tell us on paper what it is exactly that we need to know about the town in a physical sense. So we have a little mapping activity that we'll do right here in kind of in the front of the room around this table a little bit later. With that, we've talked about who we are, but our group especially is we're long-range planning specialists, economic development professionals, zoning code drafters, and also landscape architects are in our group. So any sort of design needs, visualizations, they can help us with those things. This is the slide I was talking about, so we won't go through this whole effort. I will just say what I always like to reveal about myself, because I ask everyone to in other meetings, is I'm a huge Bon Jovi fan. I have been my whole life. I can't help it. I got a cassette player in Slippery when I turned 6 years old for my birthday. So I don't know why this surprises people, but it does. So with that, I'll let David do his.
So mine is that I hate the taste of chocolate. Absolutely despise it. I have hated it since I was 1 year old. My parents tried to feed it to me, and I spit it out. And so my wife has actually took a class in genetics in college, and she informed me that it is a genetic abnormality that about 1 in a million people have, and I am it. So I have met others that will say, you know, I liked it when I was 1, I like white chocolate, I like dark chocolate. I don't like any of it and never have, and at least to this day, never will, or at least have never done so before. And every so often, I take a bite of what I think might be an oatmeal raisin cookie. No, it's a chocolate chip cookie, and I have to go spit it out. So everyone loves to hear that. I always get asked, you know, what does it taste like to you? I say really bad, old, moldy coffee. But so that's my oddity.
Ashley, would you like to?
In the spirit of sharing, I write and illustrate my own comments. So.
Okay, cool.
Hers is a little more creative than David and ours, unfortunately. So we like to do that. Sometimes we go all the way around the room, but tonight we won't go through that part of the exercise. Just to let you know a little bit about who we are as, you know, not just professionals, but as people. We're going to have a lot of meetings like this, a lot of conversations, so we always find it good to at least give you a little bit of insight into who we are behind the professional stuff that we do for these comp plans. Skip that one. So really, what this process is all about, we break it down into 3 phases called educate, explore, and empower. Currently, we're in the educate phase. We are trying to get as much data and learn as much about the community as we possibly can. We do this in a variety of ways. There's a lot of data out there that we get through the census, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and other sites like that, but also we have some other avenues that we have proprietary to us. We want to get a lot of data. We really want to have a good idea of what the data is telling us. But beyond that, we're going to be in the community a lot during this phase, doing various stakeholder outreach events. There's an online survey that just got launched. It's going to be out there. Ashley and myself will be here this Saturday doing the Halloween event, so we'll be there with a booth, soliciting folks to come over and talk to us and give us their opinions, because these plans don't work without that, especially on the front end. We really want to know what the pluses are, the things that we want to think through more on. What are those things that are really, really important to Troy? And so that happens a lot during the educate phase. Phase 2, explore. That's where we're going to be working with staff and our steering committee and other groups, including this one, to start coming up with some ideas. But I want to say that very specifically, they're just ideas at that point. It's about iterating and finding the right solution. We want to come back and have multiple drafts of like a future land use map. We're not just going to throw one at the end of the process and say, here it is. You know, and part of this will be getting back out to the community in phase 3, which we call empower, which is all about making sure that the plan is set up for success. It has very specific strategies and objectives, but also we'll be spending a lot of time during that phase getting back out to the community and making sure that we've done our job well, because what we like to say is we don't really have pride of authorship when we do these plans. It's really, we're just here to help articulate Troy's vision. And so we're going to use our expertise to help do that, but we really want to know what these groups have to say. You, the community, everybody's our sounding board. We want to make sure we're getting it right. So what is a comprehensive plan? In a general sense, it's a guiding document, so it informs land use and other decisions for the next 10 to 20 years. Felt like 20 years used to be a pretty long, good time for comp plans. As the world has gotten smaller, I think that increment's gotten a little shorter. Technologies, things have changed a lot, so there's those things. But basically, it's a plan that covers a lot of different topics. Future land use map is definitely one of them. Transportation, sustainability, sometimes housing. We've been talking with staff and other folks, and that's certainly an issue that's come up a few times. Utilities, but it's not a set list, and I want to make sure I clarify that. These are some typical categories we usually see, but other things might come out of these efforts. I don't think Troy would end up this way, but branding sometimes comes up, although I know Troy's done a lot to do a lot of the branding and marketing, so might not be one here, but something we've seen in other communities. So those things will come organically out of the process as we go through it. Kind of mentioned this a little bit, but the last plan was officially created in 2005, was updated in 2016. Like I said, every 5 to 10 years is where you really want to be thinking about these things. So I think Troy's in a good place to want to do that. It's a good time. There's a lot of activity and momentum here, so building on all those things and helping solidify what they are, but also starting to think a lot's changed since 2016, especially with the pandemic. It just changed a lot of what people do, how they interact with the world. So really good time to start really thinking about this type of effort. Before I move on to this, is there any questions about just the comp plan overall in general, or what we expect out of the process? Great, well, I'll turn it over to David to go a little bit more into the zoning ordinance update.
Yeah. So we put the zoning ordinance second. Of course, that's part of this process, but the reason we do is the first part of the process is really getting into the comp plan and learning what are the policy goals that this community wants to see, because there are lots of different ways that I can write a zoning ordinance, we can write a zoning ordinance, but we need to know some things about how we want to move forward with your community first. So that's the reason we don't just completely jump in. Now, the area that we can start looking at is kind of your procedural area. So a lot of times there's a lot more questions or a lot about why do we have to build at this standard of development, but our experience has been when you give developers a better process, then they're willing to build at a higher standard. So we're going to be taking a look at the procedures and the processes as well, not just those standards. So I put in there in the zoning ordinance, on the bottom it says the wording and definitions. Definitions can be a very legalistic thing, but it's also very important. I was just telling the group that we met with, I've had a former client that had a multi-million-dollar lawsuit over the word adjacent. So the more things that we can define, the better off we are. It makes it more clear. And that's one of the things that a lot of times people struggle with is, well, you know, the ordinance may be longer, but it's more defined, and just because it's longer doesn't mean it's more regulation. You know, I can state in 4 words, and I'm just using this as an example, barbershops are prohibited, but if I say barbershops are permitted when you do X, Y, and Z, and you list a bunch of things, that makes it actually more permissive. So that's some of the things we kind of look for is, okay, well, maybe it's okay to have this in this area if you do X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of how we'll be thinking about it through it. But the first part is really, particularly because it's been a long time since you've had a comprehensive plan, is trying to understand kind of what the community wants, because that can be different for different communities. And so the way this is laid out is, you know, your intro provisions are very much just the state law, state procedure that allows you to do this. We go into what the zoning districts are. A general observation we made coming in is that you have a lot of zoning districts for your size of city. So there may be some opportunities to consolidate some zoning districts, some things that are just very minute differences between districts and the issue becomes the more districts you have, the more procedure you have, the more rezonings you have potentially. So we're going to take a look at that. Also, you know, I talked about the use standards part about that permissive, maybe we can do this if we have certain standards. That kind of goes in that Chapter 3, that use standards section. Then we'll go down into the site standards, things that apply throughout, and then we go into nonconformities and administration. That's kind of that procedural part, and then the definitions at the end. So really the goals of this, there are some areas that we need to update state, federal laws. I've already really hit that first one, which is implementing the plan, taking those things that are recommendations and then making them into the ordinance, which of course becomes the binding law. There's also some things, best practices, and then as an overall goal, one thing we've really highlighted as staff, at the end we want to make this a much easier document to read. We want to make it so that someone can take it, look at it, and generally know what they can and can't do with their property, and then if they get into the details, into the weeds, at that point they can give staff a call. But we feel that by doing some tables and graphics and that kind of thing, we can make that a little bit easier to use document. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Matt to do the fun facts, fast facts.
Thanks. Any questions kind of on the zoning ordinance update and how that fits into the whole process before we do that? Just to make sure. Great. So this is the more interactive piece. We're going to add some questions. We'd like folks to kind of just tell us what they think, yay or nay, true or false, that kind of stuff. But really, David was talking about some of the data we're looking at in the zoning ordinance. This is some of the stuff we're starting to find, and some of these kind of intuitively new or true. Some surprise us a little bit, and we want to know if you have the same reaction that we did, so that's what we're doing here. So the first one up, did Troy grow or shrink since 2010?
It's growing.
Grow?
Slight.
Slight?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody say the other way? All right, that's good. We have a group that really honed in on that one. So it did grow. Slight, I think was the word I heard, which, so A plus on that one. Right, you got the whole thing. Drop the marker and you're on your way. So it increased not quite 1,000 people, but has grown up, and I think based on what we've been talking about with staff, one of the things we're going to want to start thinking through too is there has been more development approved even since 2020, so those numbers aren't out yet from the census, but we may start thinking through what that means as part of this too. But Troy is definitely growing from 2010 to 2020, so that's a great thing. Do more people commute into or out of Troy for work? So if you're a resident here, do you go somewhere else, or do the people that work here live in town also?
Out.
You think out of?
I know, a combination of both.
Combination of both?
I think more.
Sure.
It could be either one or the other, it can't be both.
Well, you can live here and work here.
But I live here and work here.
I live
All
here.
right, I won't keep everybody in suspense.
Yeah.
So what this diagram shows us is that,
Wow.
the people that work in town, 13,700 and some change of them, come from somewhere else. But 9,173 residents don't work here, they go somewhere else. So I heard someone say both, and so both was the right answer. It's kind of, there's a lot of people passing each other as they commute in and out of the city for work and/or living here. The number in the circle you see, it's a little over 3,000, those are folks that both live and work in the city limits. Talking to our advisory group, one possible explanation for this is just the city limits. There's probably a lot of people that maybe commute into the city from just outside the boundaries in the adjoining zip codes, so that's something I mentioned earlier. We go through this process, we want to make sure it represents this town's comments. That's one of those things, that's great feedback that we like to hear through the process, so we know how to rethink things a little bit. Which communities would you say most of the folks that live in Troy commute to for work? Where is that? Dayton? City? Dayton?
South.
Right at, make sure.
Fairborn? South for sure? All right. Dayton was the top one, but it wasn't as much as, the reason this surprised us is we were thinking it would be a higher percentage of those 9,000 people. And then the other two kind of were second and third, and then the rest sort of, it gets a little more dispersed after that. Those are the three big ones, though, the three biggest. So I was thinking Dayton would be probably a little higher, but it didn't turn out that way.
And we did have a lot of people guess Sydney, but that
Yep.
wasn't one of the top three. So it's interesting that you guys, not only this group, but the previous group guessed that, but we didn't see that reflected in the data. Maybe that's changing, but yeah, we didn't see that when we put together.
Yep. So does Troy or Ohio have a higher median home value?
Ohio.
Troy's higher?
Troy is higher than Ohio.
No, I think Ohio.
Yeah.
Well,
So is
although
Troy's
Ohio-
median home value higher than Ohio on average?
Although Ohio is going to pull it down.
Slightly higher?
I can say that.
I think that's about what I'm
There's
hearing.
a lot of Ohio that would pull it down.
Yep. They're about the same. It's a little lower. But these numbers are changing. These are 2020 numbers, just so everybody knows. The average or the median home value for everywhere across the country has gone up since then. But at least in 2020, we know that affordability is pretty good in Troy as compared to other parts of the state. And we know that because usually cities are a lot higher median income, because when you factor in the whole state, you factor in a lot of rural areas and other places. So usually your cities are going to trend a little higher. And so that's actually, that could be a positive. It could be something that we at least want to think through, but that's why it surprised us a little bit. It's just a little lower. Were more homes built after 2000 or before 1940? And don't worry about all those decades in the middle. This is a tricky one, admittedly.
I'd say before 40.
Before 1940, I heard? Before? After? You got one after? Yeah, we're just talking about Troy proper at the
In
moment.
the
Yeah, I'd say
Before.
1940.
Yep. Not by a whole lot, but it's certainly interesting. And the reason this surprised us is when we work in other communities, generally it's like 1990 and before. And then there's the kind of slowdown. Here, there was a lot before 1940 and then since then, but not a lot in that middle section. So that was a little surprising to us. Generally, we see a lot of housing permits issued in 60s, 70s, 80s, during some of those times. So that's not quite the same trend here. Has the vacancy rate in homes decreased or increased since 2010? So this would also be 2020. I heard a decreased, I think.
Actually, it's increased. I'd say it's increased.
Increased, decreased? Oh, ooh. Difference of opinions, that's always good. That's why we do this, because we like to talk through those things. It's decreased. To 2020, in 2020, that was a really low vacancy rate compared to national and other parts of the state. So that's really great. That means either older structures are being repurposed and reutilized, or they're being potentially torn down. But either way, there's something being done with them. They're not necessarily just sitting there doing nothing and investing. Is there This is kind of a very zoning-centric one, admittedly, but you guys would be the group that sees a lot of these when they come through. Would you say more than 5% of Troy is in a planned unit development, acreage-wise?
Acreage, what?
Yeah, pure acreage standpoint.
Does that include industrial and commercial stuff?
If it's in a PUD, it absolutely would, yeah.
Yeah.
Say less.
Less, I heard? Less? I'm hearing a few lesses. More. Not much more, but more. Actually, after talking to staff, we are actually thinking it might be a little more, because there have been some PUDs in recent years, but by and large, that's where it is acreage-wise. That doesn't mean parcels and some of the other divisions we can use, but, so that's what's going on there. And especially when we get to the end of this process and start looking at the zoning ordinance, those are the things we're really gonna wanna talk through. Do we wanna keep working through PUDs for development approvals? Do we wanna include some things in the zoning ordinance that maybe we don't need to do a PUD for? But that's always a topic that comes up, so it's one of the reasons we like to highlight this one.
Are you straight PUDs, not TIFs or enterprise?
Yeah, only zoning, so we're referring to a PUD only as the zoning entitlement, which is basically a special use for a PUD. Yeah, we're not talking about TIFs and the CRAs or any of those other things. Yeah, nothing economic development specific on this one. And then the last one, does city have more or less than 20 miles of complete streets? Complete streets, as we're defining it, is anything that provides accommodation for something other than a car. Less? This one surprised the last group too. More. But, so we're talking about any accommodation here, so it could be a striped bike lane on the road. But we're making, it's not a physical barrier, but there is a designated alternative there. So, that's pretty high for a city this size. That's one of the reasons we were surprised. And when you really start thinking about all the variations of a complete street, it sort of adds up, so. So I think that's great, providing alternate ways to get around town.
No, that doesn't include the bike.
Yeah, but a lot of that though is, like we have West Main Street, it's just designated as a complete street, but nobody in the world is gonna ride a bicycle on West Main Street.
Sure, no, it's a fantastic point.
So
This is as
designated a lot of streets that are complete streets, but they're not usable.
Sure.
And that, we did use the designation that from.
Well, you used the complete street the complete street program that we adopted
We did.
5 or 6 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's 100% correct. And I
So,
think,
and then that's one of the reasons we bring this up is the question, is it how it's designated, or do we all feel that actually is how many miles of complete street? So, if there's a feeling that maybe we kind of need to look back at that, that's, something we can do in this process.
yeah, I kind of mentioned that a while ago, but it's good to reiterate, because this is a fantastic point of, the data can only tell us so much. That's why we go out and do the public engagement efforts and the online surveys and all the things that we're going to do, because we can see what this says, but that kind of feedback really helps us narrow down on, is there maybe something else we need to be thinking through as part of this, so. And this one keeps popping up early on me. I hope nobody's cheated and saw that. Does Troy have a higher or lower proportion of parkland compared to similar areas?
It's off the chart.
Off the chart high? All right, I'm not going to keep you in suspense, everybody was quick on that one. So yes, it's a lot higher. When you add in all the publicly available park space and the private open space like in developments, it's almost triple per 1,000, so. I think that's a great thing. Quality of life is so important. We learned that during COVID, how important open space and parks are. I think the question for us is, all right, does that mean we want to start rethinking how we use them, what amenities are provided? That's going to be a big part of this conversation moving forward. So, any questions on that before we put you to work with markers? So that's just a little snippet. We like to do that just to get everybody excited and thinking a little bit, and really to highlight, that I think to the complete streets example the most. We can only learn so much by going through the data. We need to have these interactions and a lot more of them to make sure we're providing the plan that Troy wants and they think and the community thinks is the right one. So
I'd recommend that we videotape Jeff going down Main Street on his bike. Video live data, what that looks like and feels like.
yeah, awesome.
I will have beeps in there.
Hey, we'll pay for your heart monitor.
You just scraped me off the bumper, right?
You can pick up some of the roses from the lady out front of Walmart. She was
Yeah,
really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to pull a table.
Record that lump when the car runs over you, you know, lump.
All right, for the mapping activity, this doesn't take a long time. A long time ago in planning parlance, a gentleman named Kevin Lynch sort of came up with these foundational physical elements of the city. We like to walk groups through this when we're getting started, we want to know where these important things are. And so we're going to spread an aerial photo out and have you all come down here and give us your opinion. We want you to draw on there where all these things are, so as soon as we can figure out how to get it unfolded. There's no right or wrong answers to this. It's really just how you perceive these different elements. We'll go through them one at a time as we go through it, but really we want to understand how people that are in Troy every day kind of map the community out, essentially. So,
Oh, okay,
so unfortunately, it does mean we got to get out of our seats.
okay.
This is the put you to work part of the program.
Yeah.
They're gonna get it in a second.
Okay,
Oh,
so we're going to go two groups.
okay.
So we didn't know we had another table available. So,
We need the other table to put together so they can draw
yeah, got
appropriately.
it.
So I think we're just gonna have one map. but-
Fair enough. This is meant to be fun. We shouldn't think of it as pure work, but.
Wheels, you know?
We're going to be on camera looking strong.
Okay.
As opposed to.
Checking,
Everybody else but you and me. The first one we need help identifying are all the paths. Now, roads are certainly a path, but it's really about how things come in and out of the community, go between neighborhoods, how goods get transferred around town. It's about a lot of different. It doesn't have to just be roads that people drive on. You know, it's freight, it's the river, if people use that to get up and down. I don't think they do, but, you know, that could be one example. But anything that's a pathway where people, visitors move around the community. And so there's a couple of orange markers in there. Go ahead and grab one, and you just draw them right on there. And it's just
You guys gotta stay within the lines now, you know, don't go outside the lines.
Right.
So what are we doing, streets?
So paths, any streets are, like major pathways, so. Could be a street, could be a railroad, that's really important.
Okay, sure.
A bike trail, golf cart paths came up, We have two options. We like to keep it color coordinated so we can, I'm gonna stand right here.
I feel like I need to.
Main kind of here. Main or they would say ridge, rock. Where's ridge?
Adams Street.
Ridge on the street.
They're 15 in the first section.
Yep.
Yeah.
Group exercise.
I think they're gonna give us
Not telling them what it is.
We don't advertise this in the brochure, but we like to put our groups to work. Help us out.
That's fine, that's just, good luck with these cats. Leave them together.
You can certainly identify bike paths. Maybe just like write a note with an arrow that says bike path or something, just so we know.
Right by my.
Jeff could write bike path.
You like me
I
like
could do that,
You
yeah.
can do that.
How many people do you stay?
Right up to the.
What about Stanfield? A lot of people come down Stanfield.
Yep, they do now. I feel like they do now. A really big, important one that goes north-south.
Yeah.
I-75. We don't drive in
Stay off
there.
I don't blame you there, but I think so many people coming in and out. Think of that 13,000 people coming to town every day and vice versa, so. There's definitely a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Do they?
Well,
Well, that's good to know. Maybe it's a good alternative.
I just got the stock market.
No.
Stock market's 25 days.
Oh, wait, I forgot. I thought it was
North that way, where is it north from?
And I know a lot of people,
It's not that
well, 41 to 202. 202, probably not that far.
No one goes to Jeff there.
I was gonna say, where's McKay?
Right here, we did McKay.
Look to the roundabout.
Yeah, but all the way out here.
Yeah, I know.
There's one K.
And then, currently, a little lot of people.
What's that?
Oh, yeah.
Sideville, we got one through Sideville, I don't think that's.
All right, we got 4 more of these to get through, so I don't think there's any other major ones.
I know.
The next one in the slide deck, and I will spare you from me moving back and forth and blinding everybody, is called the nodes. But these are places where activity is concentrated. You know, downtown is kind of an obvious one, a lot of people come to downtown, you know, things happen there. If there's some sort of like a industrial transfer place, you know, multimodal, those are all nodes of activity. It doesn't have to just be people walking around. But we like to know where all the big ones are. Park is,
Market Park,
Sure.
Market Golf Course, Market Arena.
if it has a historical or cultural significance, then it would be a landmark. Yeah, some could absolutely. We're gonna do landmarks next, so you can just circle it with both.
Yeah, that's your problem right there.
Yeah.
Because what would be more landmark versus.
Well, that's it.
What classified are leaving by?
A lot of people gather there and.
But these.
Yeah, we're concerts.
Yeah, so to me,
Graduation.
to me, that's a no issue. To me,
So
it's
in those, where
Huh?
somebody uses one piece of transportation.
Oh, I'm just-
It can be that. It can be where a
I
lot of
feel like
people
I'm
congregate.
being more official, standing in here.
Oh,
It may just be an important intersection of two businesses.
Huh? Yeah.
I would say the downtown is a no.
The whole downtown or just what?
Oh, yeah, you could do
Well,
that.
that's what we want to know.
It goes, but that works better.
What's the Dora line?
We don't have it shown on there.
Down Mulberry.
Mulberry to Ray. Oh, here. There's Ray here.
So it's basically.
No, here.
You're going
Yeah,
way
it's
too
too
far.
far.
This map's gonna be worthless on that.
These guys.
We'll figure it out.
Elm, right, there's Elm.
The idea is we did this first year, we did start layering them together. The really important ones tend to fall less.
McKay,
You're talking about one.
so McKay, North McKay, right up from Main Street, Bobby.
Right,
Stadium.
Stadium.
Yeah, Stadium, Mark Stadium.
Stadium.
Yeah, it's all right.
Arena Mark, Golf Course Mark.
All right, any others, or do we want to start adding landmarks? Did we get this part?
Make sure you put the outdoor for me. The outdoor.
All right, so blue.
Everybody knows where that is.
Looks like it's purple.
Blue is the landmark, so they're kind of similar to those, except people go there because of that landmark.
We had,
It has a
we did
cultural
what?
or historical significance usually.
We got Walmart ball stadium, you got.
If it is a local landmark, you could certainly go there.
We gotta go to Walmart after all this.
We just heard how nice the Walmart is compared to other stores, so.
Ours?
Yeah.
It's better than Pickle, better than Vandelli. That's for sure.
Yeah, we did hear that in the last one.
You got
Wait, it could be a long-term restaurant that, you know, they become a landmark just because it's in there. People know and love it.
Walmart.
Water main and reserve.
You can't go. I mean, you got everything fit in there.
Reserve on,
Bakery, restaurant?
Yeah. Oh.
Did we landmark the the original courthouse square?
I think I
What about the actual roundabout?
What?
The fountain and everything? Is that landmark, is it historically significant?
You'll still have to.
I would think so.
Your slide.
Civil War.
I'm just swiping now. I don't think they're on an hour. Hard
Did you see that?
Never changed.
Cameo is Disney.
But do people think that when they come?
I think every single person that comes to Troy tonight has wants to go look at Mary Jane Anderson.
It was just a tower, there's a tower.
If you go
It's gonna take you right across the street
Okay,
tonight.
on the
You take me there tonight? I
Yes.
have 40 years.
Yeah, on the.
Where are you
going? Just look at the,
I can't get in the Alpha out of memory.
I'm in April.
It's her sister, right, it's Mary Jane Gaynor and herself. They, some Italian artists drew them and stuck them on the columns. Their two daughters.
There was a couple small policy buildings here, but
Yes,
What's the historic building?
okay, I feel like, is that about all, I feel like, maybe one down. So the next one is called edging, so it's different than path.
Oh.
Is there like a hard boundary between neighborhoods, or, to me, maybe the river kind of forms one, hard to get over, you know, there's a lot of, you walk, when you see that, yeah.
So edges with the community.
Or it could be exterior edges, any ones that are important that we need to be thinking about. That would be a good one, yeah.
We haven't got.
That's red.
Our bar is private.
Yeah, but our industrial kind of.
I would say 75 for each man.
That was gonna be, that was gonna be the this side, yeah. But there was an interchange, very hard to get over.
And then I would say the river.
Seventy-five is one.
Who's the genius of the
It kind of bifurcates. Well, and the old district, right? I mean, there's another thing that does that.
Nothing out here.
Like they talk about funding of it,
Markets in it?
roundabout along Washington Road in 2018, it's a master plan for 2005. So here's 20 years later, we haven't decided to build it. There's gonna be another 20 years before we
What's
decide.
what's the separation there on that?
This is Main Street,
Yeah.
and, 75.
Right.
Well, the two roads,
Well, then
it's
it's Market,
turning
it's
into
a main
something.
thoroughfare. Because you're on Market, on that side.
And then you kind of form a barrier between the neighborhoods. Also,
They're like how, they're like how all the wards used to be.
Okay, so there's political divisions along that line. Oh, okay.
And just
Makes sense.
historical neighborhood school competitions,
So then you have to go back.
Cook Pirates versus Cooks and Tigers.
Then you have to go back, put Mark Van Cleve and Haywood and all those other guys.
They believe would probably be a historical.
Elementary school.
Yeah, try that puppy out.
Just break that down. It's gonna be a part of the
School district.
Right at the office.
What about Canal?
That's a pretty. I saw it too.
They are like school board.
Okay.
There's non-buildings, they're trying to get 7 of them built in.
Water, they're going through,
The water.
they work in a circle recently, they go through that.
With their elementary
Got it.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is, especially,
All right. The only other category we have is district. Generally, in the city of Troy, we don't have them throughout the whole community. Like the historic area is a district.
We do have a historical
So
district.
we have that.
I think you have that easier than you have your other.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Sherwood, you've got Westbrook, you've got
Downtown,
District,
Culverson
you've
Heights.
got downtown, yes, you've got Culverson Heights, you've got
What color is it?
Hollywood.
We're gonna do that one.
Hollywood flat.
But then, yeah, anything you feel represents like a unique district area, that's what we want to know that. That one's brown.
Just a big circle.
Here, you want to,
Oh, I'm just writing those down here for district.
so you've got
One of the comments I heard about, was interesting, companies are listed downtown. They're gonna do is stuff. Downtown. We had Wonder Brothers come here.
What about the west, over here? Would you call that an industrial district?
Kings Chapel.
Yeah.
Kings Chapel.
And Roseville Cemetery. Yeah. Other cemeteries. Yep.
It's a little different, because you got kind of out to the old Phil Hill area here.
Yeah.
by the hospital.
Phil Hill, they used to call that Phil Hill.
Yeah, just call it Phil Hill, but.
Is that an official name, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Official
The old hospital.
The old hospital, yeah, well, okay. Yeah, a lot of nice houses up in there.
Well, that's water.
Alright, don't forget the old East End. Yeah, they got.
You never heard what?
They're signing.
You never heard about Phil Hill?
I've never heard of it about that either.
But I think that's pretty much all, unless there's any other districts, that's what this exercise is all about. It's helping us start to understand your mental map of the city.
You didn't lump,
We would have never come up with Phil Hill on our own. Go ahead and just throw that one out there. I don't think we can find that one searching on the
We're
internet.
like that.
They're gonna compare our map to a kindergarten.
There you go.
Yep.
Will be about.
Hey, Todd.
Yep. And then I'm gonna have my landscape architect come and do their version.
We did.
All right, great, well, I think that's all we're going to maybe think about your community a little different.
Things, man.
Come a little.
Don't lump us up with you.
So have you already got
They're
it
on
on the
We had all
CAD?
that.
Yeah, we'll recreate this digitally and it'll.
You haven't already done that?
Yeah.
The map underneath it.
Okay.
We'll
That's just for the design efforts people.
Right.
We had the advisory.
We're fine with it.
Right.
We are absolutely fine with that.
You leave it for there.
Right. All right. I'll stand here for a few more seconds. Just to make sure what we
Okay.
Clear.
It should Bill actually, or
Thursday.
Union.
When will we be back?
Tuesday.
So you will be here for
We won't be
committee
here for
Monday.
minutes, huh?
But you said you would be here.
You can repeat anything more.
That was.
But great, well, thank you, everybody, we appreciate you humoring us on that with us. These types of exercises are really important for us to
Because you
really
have,
understand
how
the
many
community.
committees?
You see it through your eyes, district, Phil Hill, for instance, all those things. That's really great, we really appreciate your effort, and to kind of wrap things up tonight, Ashley's gonna just walk you through the remaining schedule as it's projected out.
Sure. So, like Matt alluded to, we met with your city's department heads, as a stakeholder group. Again, like Matt said, it's so important to get this kind of feedback, as well as we met with our first advisory group, and, we'll take the map that you just produced and, summarize it with the map that we received from that group. Tomorrow we'll be on radio and help get the word out there. As you see in your packets, there is a QR code that's for a survey. Public survey is going to be live today. Start getting those public responses. So anyway, and then
Feel free to share that.
Yes.
Often as early as you can through Facebook, other, emails, however you want to communicate that. The more responses we get on that, the better.
before it was, for you to take a look at and, be aware of what we're doing here. But now it'll be live and we'll be actually actively collecting responses.
We've already got our first one.
Yeah.
Clarify that earlier.
Yeah. And then we'll have, so just a key difference, I don't know how familiar you are with this process as far as The advisory group is something that we'll be meeting throughout the process as our sounding board, but the stakeholder meeting groups are more one-off, kind of open roundtable discussion, a little bit like we're doing tonight. Tomorrow we'll be having our Miami County stakeholder meeting, nonprofit organizations, downtown stakeholders, and then lastly, education. This is only about a little bit over half of the stakeholders we'll be interviewing. We'll be coming back later to round out those interviews.
Yeah, it's important to point out that those stakeholders are groups of generally professionals or residents or somebody that maybe has similar interests in Troy. We like to break it down in 1 hour at a time with them just to get that kind of very singular point of view, business owners or whoever. We find that when we do that kind of, they have a different kind of thought process on what's the challenge, what's going great, and so that's part of meeting with them.
Yeah, you get this great collaboration with people just speaking the same language.
Jeff, question?
Who's in the advisory group?
So it's essentially made up of all these stakeholder groups that we're going to be talking to, one representative from each one of those, so business owners, school district, staff. They're all basically bifurcated or chosen from these stakeholder groups to make up the advisory group. So it's a representative collection of all the stakeholders, essentially.
What radio were you going to be on tomorrow?
It's 107.1 morning show with Lori.
That's the Power 107.
Yes, it is
Yeah, sorry.
Power 107. I was
With the Lori Bird.
I was told earlier by a member of my staff I have a great taste for radio, so.
And then Wednesday, again, these are some of more of the more stakeholder groups, and then we will be also meeting with your plan commission, similar as we did with you all tonight. So that's it for this trip. But looking forward, like David and Matt were talking about, this is just the first phase. We're going into the comprehensive plan and then on to the zoning code development. We'll have about 7 advisory group meetings, and then we're going to weave into this process some of the public engagement events like Hometown Halloween this Saturday. We'll be there, and Grand Illumination. So that's where we are on that. And then and again, we kind of have this broken down as like phase 1, phase 2, but like David alluded to, I mean, we're going to be working on both of these simultaneously. We're going to let the comprehensive plan inform how we're drafting the zoning ordinance.
Is this conducive to Rotary, Kiwanis, Optimist groups type of
Yeah.
things?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we're happy when we're here for different site visits. If we want to loop in for an extra meeting, we have no problem doing that. We're happy to come and talk to those groups and get input from them.
In similar situations, if somebody can't make it to our stakeholder groups, we've done them virtually. We have that capability as well. So we're pretty flexible. We try to be, like Matt said, we try to go for a public engagement event, go to where the people already are, or in this case, just make it as accessible process as possible.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have a consistent Rotary group, like for us to speak, we'd be happy to do that. If it's an engaged group here locally, I know a number of communities I've worked in, that is a great avenue, so.
Sure.
Yeah, I've gone to Rotary lunches and presented an overview like this and gotten feedback that way. We got there having our monthly luncheon. I think we're open to any of those if we just got to figure out the timing.
Todd and Patrick will take care of Rotary.
Great.
Weekly meetings.
Okay, weekly.
Awesome.
Optimus is weekly, what's Kiwanis, Bobby?
Kiwanis
is weekly.
This means an awful lot.
We have a lot to talk about.
Gotta get your fee out of them somehow.
The other thing I do want to point out on this previous slide and this one collectively is we anticipate this being an 18-month process, beginning to end. We're kind of at month 2, getting into it. Comp plans, we found the sweet spot's about a year. Once you do all the engagement, all the things, the summarizing, getting out in front of the community, making sure they get a chance to review the plan. And also that includes the formal adoption process that we'll have to go through. Since we know we're teaming this with the zoning ordinance, that's not quite as long. We can start working on that a little ahead of time, and there'll be some overlap there to help speed that second process up a little bit. So usually in a zoning ordinance on its own, it would take closer to 12 months, but we're teaming a lot of the stakeholder meetings together since we know we're doing both at the same time.
Okay. Is there anything else?
Last next
Oh, I'm sorry.
just, reiterating what we kind of already discussed, is just, again, we're here until Wednesday night, then Matt and I will be back here on Saturday. The deliverable that you'll be seeing next, for our next advisory, group meeting would be the existing conditions report. Again, this is from the Explore phase. We're going to wrap up all our data collection, wrap up all our data analysis. And then the second public engagement event is going to be Grand Illumination, as I mentioned, and on from there. Just letting you know immediately what's on the horizon.
Pretty busy docket the next couple of months.
Correct.
Make sure we can get to these events since they're already planned to be hosted.
Right. That's all we have.
Go ahead.
Council members, any comments or questions?
Can you tell me again where we can find this survey?
Yes, there's a QR code included in the packet.
You scan it with your phone camera?
Christie, it's
Yep.
on your agenda.
Yeah, and there's a link to that on the agenda.
Oh,
On your agenda.
Yep.
It'll also be, we have a project website that's up and running for this project, and it'll be available there. And we actually, through our company, will be paying to have it inserted in people's timelines on Facebook. So, your page, so you get the word out, we'll have QR codes with us at the event this weekend. See if it takes.
So they also have contact information for this Kiwanis Rotary, other groups that.
Sure.
Sure.
Shoot them my
They've
way,
got-
yeah,
They've got it, so.
yeah.
Yeah,
We can figure that out.
we do bi-weekly check-in meetings, so, I mean, we'll be meeting with staff on this trip, but we'll definitely bring that up, find out when the dates are, see if we can make that mesh with the timeline of site visit, whether it's December or the next one after that. We can, sure we can figure that out.
Optimists are on Monday, what's Rotary on?
I'm sorry?
What's
Rotary on
Rotary?
Tuesday, Kiwanis on Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, those are the days we were looking at coming, so that works well. You said, Rotary's Tuesday, and what was the one?
Kiwanis is Wednesday.
Optimists is Monday.
Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, that, we were.
What if you guys all met as one group?
Oh,
We've got
no,
nation.
That is the international crapola from all those that want you to do that.
It can't happen.
There'd be fist fights in the aisle.
Those old gray hairs that.
What that story is.
Exactly.
And here, if you, again, please let us know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. You have our contact here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having this meeting, this work session with us. To kick off the process, we're just getting started. We're going to be in town a lot, going through the process. Really happy to be here and be a part of it.
Thank you. I would just ask for you to stick around. I know we got some members of the public, they may want to
Yeah,
ask some questions, so.
Sure.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Any other comments, questions? We stay adjourned. Thank you.